Once some time has passed, we'll note by checking on our colony supplies again, we'll go into materials, we'll go ahead and filter by material type, and we'll check to see that we've got some metals and metalloids available from our ore refining. If we look at metals, we can see that we now have pretty large volumes of cobalt, copper, and nickel. And if we check metalloids, we've got a whole bunch of silicon that we can now use for manufacturing things. The first things that we're probably going to want to start manufacturing is additional equipment for our machinery grid here. We're going to need different sorts of machines to provide our colonists with water and enhanced manufacturing capacities. So the way to issue manufacturing orders, you start by clicking on the manufacture order tool here on the toolbar. This will bring up an interface that lets us pick out the sorts of items that we want to build. In this case, the first things we're going to build are a pair of water vapor extraction stations. All of your colonists need some sort of water to consume from somewhere, or else they'll eventually die of dehydration. And you start with plenty of supplies to last for a little while, but eventually you're going to need to start providing them with more water of their own. The difference between a water treatment station and a vapor extraction station is that a treatment station has to be next to some source of water. It can function either as a desalination plant next to saltwater tiles or just a freshwater purification plant. It'll produce a lot more water than a vapor extraction station, which draws moisture out of the air, but we're going to build vapor extraction stations because there's no water really close to our starting location. So you'll select vapor extraction station, you'll go ahead and click next. In this part of the interface, you specify which sort of materials you want to use for which subcomponents of the item. All items in Outer Colony consist of a bunch of subcomponents, and these subcomponents confer stats and functionality on the end product. So we're going to want to make a few of these because water vapor extraction stations usually work pretty slowly. We'll go ahead and manufacture 4 to make sure that we've got a bunch working at once to get as much water as we can. Now the frame is just the frame that holds all the rest of these subcomponents. It does not have any functionality associated with it, so we can use any old solid for this and it will suffice. I'll go ahead and use quartz-bearing rock because I happen to have a lot of it, but anything that you have a very large volume of that suffices to satisfy the material requirement will do. The Electro Condenser, on the other hand, does have associated functionality and confers a stat. So we need to use a metal in order to satisfy this manufacturing requirement, and the electrical conductivity rating on the metal is going to increase the water vapor extraction capacity of the end item. So the better the conductivity of the metal that we use, the faster this is going to be able to draw moisture from the air and produce potable water. The way that we can tell what the conductivity rating of these metals is that, again, we can go to our encyclopedia dialog, open this up, filter to metals, and then take a look at cobalt, and this will give all of the stats on the item, on the material type rather. We can see that this one has an electrical conductivity rating of 4, nickel's got an electrical conductivity rating of 4.2, and copper is much better with an electrical conductivity rating of 10. However, we don't have a ton of copper available at present, so we're just going to go ahead and use cobalt because we have plenty of that on hand. The mechanical durability of the airflow module here will also increase the vapor extraction capacity. Cobalt and nickel are both fairly similar in mechanical durability. We'll use cobalt once more because we have a large amount of it. If we click the Issue Manufacturing Order button and go into our Orders dialog, we can see that there's a heavy machinery manufactured state now present here. We'll raise the order priority on that to something very high, and this will get one of our workers busy on the task. We can see here already, I believe it's been assumed by Kazin. If we go ahead and use our inspection tool on him, we can see that his plan to achieve his goal, he's already up to manufacturing the items. The worker will automatically retrieve the requisite materials from a stockpile, take them to the manufacturing station, and then go ahead and get to work building whatever it is that you've told him to build. So we've got our orders issued to build our water vapor extraction station. There are another few key pieces of machinery that we're going to need for the next set of expansion. We want to build a fabric synthesis station. This is a piece of equipment that's used to synthesize fabrics from different sorts of material inputs. Some materials are refined from others, which means that you take an existing material and you break it down to create new materials that are its constituents. So taking an ore and getting elemental metals from it is refining. Whereas when you create a new material that takes inputs in this way, like building something new, like fabrics can't be refined from anything. They have to be synthesized from other inputs. You'll need a sort of station like this, like a fabric synthesis station. So we'll go through the same process we did with our water vapor extraction stations, picking the materials we want to use for each subcomponent. Cobalt will suffice once again. We'll issue a manufacturing order for one of those. We'll want to make a furniture and consumer goods manufacturing station. This is going to be used to build all of the furniture items that our people want, providing core worlders and other materialistic sorts of cultures with all kinds of consumer goods like these is a very easy and straightforward way to increase their happiness. So we'll want to get one of these. I'll pick quartz-bearing rock again for the frame because we got a ton of it. I'll go ahead and use quartz-bearing rock for the assembly housing because, again, we can use any old solid there. I'll make the lathe from cobalt. The electronics interface we can go ahead and use silicon for because I have a bunch of it. Issue a manufacturing order there. And then the last thing that we'll want to go ahead and manufacture will be a food and drink manufacturing station. Our colonists are going to need food and drink to stay alive, and while our starting supplies will last for a while longer, we'll want to be ready to make more fairly soon. So again, satisfy all the material requirements. I'm just going to use the materials that I have a lot of on hand. Go ahead and issue the manufacturing order. And then inside of the orders dialog, I'll go ahead and raise the priority on all three of these to high levels so that these get worked on in short order. Go ahead and unpause the world, and you'll see that more colonists will start milling about and taking care of business over here in our machinery grid. Once these orders are satisfied, the manufactured items will be placed in an output hopper on each piece of equipment, so our manufacturing station can hold other items inside of it. And then transport orders will automatically be created to move the manufacturing outputs to stockpiles. Once they're moved to a stockpile, they become available for use. So we can see that as we check the order details here on the water vapor extraction station orders, one of the 4 has been manufactured already. And in short order, a new item transported state. So our fabric synthesis station was built. An order was already created to move that to a stockpile. Once these pieces of equipment are manufactured, we'll go ahead and deploy them. I'm going to put the fabric synthesis station over here next to our power plants. I'm going to place our water vapor extraction stations to get those working as quickly as possible. I'll place the furniture and consumer goods manufacturing station here. Well, it's not built yet, but it should be soon. I think it's built now. There it is. And then I'll want to place my food and drink manufacturing station next to our water vapor extraction stations. This is because water is conveyed, just like energy, there's a separate water grid like we have an energy grid, and the food and drink manufacturing station is something that's going to need potable water to manufacture drinks. You can connect it to water treatment facilities via pipes, just like you can connect structures and machinery with power lines, but for the sake of simplicity, we'll just go ahead and place the manufacturing station next to our water ones. And then we'll want to make sure that all of our water vapor extraction stations are connected to one another, forming a contiguous grid here. As time goes by, we can use the tile inspection tool on the vapor extraction stations, view the generator info, and we'll see that the current humidity and other factors that contribute to how much it produces and how much water it's managed to extract so far. So that's the first stage of manufacturing. All the same rules apply for manufacturing everything, like component specification. If you're making a rifle, you'll want to specify the right materials for barrels, stocks, trigger assemblies, and other subcomponents that contribute to the item's functionality. The same fundamental rule set applies to everything, but some expertise is required to understand which materials you want to use for which applications in order to build the best kind of items. But hopefully this gives an overview of the basics, and we'll go ahead and do plenty more manufacturing as time goes by to produce all the different kinds of things that our colonists are going to need. I'm I'm just going to go ahead and issue orders to deploy the last 2 water vapor extraction stations, and now we've got them all chugging away, and we're ready for the next round.